Welcome everyone to the 2026 Chevron Houston Marathon. I just want to thank all of you so much for being here again this year, if you're repeating or if this is your first time. As we get ready for the Houston Marathon, I want to recognize all of you, our incredible medical volunteers. You're the ones who keep our runners safe, supported, and cared for from start to finish. And this event simply wouldn't happen without your time, your energy, and your willingness just to show up to help our runners. I'm so grateful for each of you. I'm proud to work alongside you. Thank you for everything you do, and here's to a great race day ahead. With that being said, let's launch into some slides talking about the marathon this year. So let's go ahead and get started. I just want to talk about some stats for this year and what we're looking at so far. This year, we're looking at a total of 38,000 runners. 8,000 of those are going to be on Saturday and the remainder on Sunday, split between our half and full marathon. When it comes to our volunteers across the entire course and everything that goes into making the marathon work, we have about 7,000. And then when it comes to our medical volunteers, it's unbelievable to say this, but we have 750 that are involved, and that number just keeps growing every single year. Again, this is the largest single-day sporting event in Houston, and we're very proud to host it.
Really quick, I wanted to go over our medical committee captains, and we'll go over those here in the next couple slides. First, to start off, Carly Caulfield, she's going to be our race director. Corey Broadway, he is our manager over event operations. He plays a big role with the medical committee. I serve as the medical director for the Houston Marathon. Dr. Gill serves as the associate medical director. Irvin Sulpus is our physician overseeing minor medical, and he's a pretty big team who runs that with inside the GRB. Maria Betrago, she's the captain over the podiatry team. Lacey Harrison, she's the captain over the bike team who are out on the course taking care of patients. Some of those at the aid stations will see them assisting. And then Ernesto Rodriguez, he's in charge of the roamer spotters that you'll see throughout the GRB, making sure our runners are safe and healthy pre and post race. Andrew Ziterkoff, he is the captain over logistics. Dr. Affetti, he is the captain over the finish line. And then Dr. Wynn, she is the captain over triage. When it comes to communications, Michael Missoura is our captain over all of our communications. We have Steve Rodriguez, who is in charge of our massage, and that goes for general massage, medical massage, as well as elite massage. And then Rebecca Sam, who is the captain over GRB medical. We have Elizabeth Martin and Natasha Gordoni, who are in charge of our aid station volunteers. And then we have Casey Gay, who is in charge of our aid station logistics.
And the last two captains I want to mention, part of our team, is Mark Knobloch. He's going to be our GRB incident response team captain. And then Brad Rush, who's going to be our critical care captain in the GRB.
So let's talk a little bit about the course and what to expect. If you volunteered with us last year, there has been no change to the course. On this map, you're going to see all of our aid stations located. So we do co-locate all our aid stations with water stations except for a handful on the back end of the course, and that is to prevent hyponatremia. You can see also our half marathon course on the right side of the screen there, and they have obviously their own aid stations to finish off that part of the race. Now both the marathon and half marathon do combine towards the last several miles and as they head back into the GRB. This is a list of our aid stations. Those in bold are specific for our half marathon, the 9H and 10.5H. If you're out in the first aid stations, this is how we'll be referring to you in the field by your aid station number. As most of you probably know, we do co-locate our aid stations with our water stations, except for the back part of the course We tend to spread them out about every 1.5 miles in the beginning, but then we go every 3/4 miles once you hit the 20-mile marker. And this is obviously to have more medical available to our runners. Also, we don't put, like I stated, the water stations with every aid station in the back part of the course, and that's to prevent hyponatremia. As for our aid stations out on the course, we do have medical bins that are now efficiently organized with all the medical equipment you need. Most are co-located as stated with the refueling stations, though some aren't on the back part. We do have wet bulb temperature monitoring, and this is really helpful for me to see what it feels like for runners on the course, and those are located at aid stations 9.5, 17, and 22.5. And then finally, we do have tarp assisted cooling with oscillation, what's also called TACO, and basically that starts at mile marker 8 all the way to the finish, including our half marathon. For those of you that are not familiar with our TACO protocol, this is for our exertional hyperthermia patients typically with core temps of 104 or greater that have altered mental status. We do have continuous monitoring temperature probes that we place in the patient to monitor them, and what we do is we basically take a cooling bag, we fill it with ice and water with the patient in there, and then we oscillate it back and forth, obviously keeping their head outside of the bag. And what we have found, this actually cools the patient down rapidly with a goal to get the temp down to about 102 in a very short period of time. All these patients we either transport straight to the hospital or to the GRB for further cooling. And if you have any more questions about the protocol, on the back of your ID card you'll see a QR code which has the protocol itself written, as well as a video linking to how to perform the procedure. Let's discuss a little about GRB Medical. This is obviously a big part of the care that we provide, and this is located down inside the GRB at the finish line. One of the things I do want to point out is that we have some great partnerships that make GRB Medical possible. We have St. Joseph Medical Center, which is donating our crash carts to our GRB Medical. We also have Abbott, which donates iStats, and then we have Memorial Hermann, who is amazingly staffing our ECMO that's available at the finish line. The way the GRB is laid out is very typical to what you'd expect in an ER with a few added things. We do have triage, obviously, and then we have an urgent care, we have podiatry, and then we have medical massage and general massage. We have the main medical area, which takes care of a lot of, or most of our issues, to be honest, and then we have the critical care area for those sick patients who really need that extra care and need to be resuscitated. As stated before, we do have ECMO available to our runners. I still believe we're the only race in the country that has this. As probably most of you know, ECMO is extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, and it's a life support technology that provides temporary assistance to the heart and the lungs when they're unable to function adequately. So we're really blessed to have this available for our runners, and we can't thank Hermann enough for providing the personnel and equipment to do this. This is located inside the GRB critical care area, and there's also a limited field response with this technology. Most of you are going to receive your ID badges, and on the back you're going to notice QR codes. So we will have a QR code for the medical protocols. I advise everyone to take a look at those before race day, as well as medical protocols for the written TACO protocol, the instructional video on tarp-assisted cooling, and then we also have hands-only CPR video, and then our evacuation and shelter map. We do have some common medical emergencies that we do come across. One is exercises-associated collapse. This commonly occurs once a runner stops running. You have a lot of blood that has been utilized by the lower extremities, you have decreased preload, and then they subsequently have a syncopal episode. Another is hyponatremia. A lot of times this is due to excessive free water intake, and then associated with also sweating. And then you have hyperthermia, hypothermia if the weather is appropriate, and then exercise-associated muscle cramps and hypoglycemia. Some quick pearls on what to do when you are working in the GRB or out in the field is: one, pay attention, be alert to what is going on around you. Obviously, identify distressed runners, and then we always say be alert for suspicious activity. Do not just react, consider, then react. And this really goes for the field aid stations as well. But size up the situation, and then what can you do, initiate action, and what is not possible, consider alternatives. For example, you don't just want to run out into a group of runners and try to grab somebody, because you may knock down a few runners in the process. So just think about things before you do them. And then use our communication system. We have obviously multiple methods of communication. If you're in the GRB, this isn't as much of an issue, except trying to get a hold of a person if you need help. But for the field, we'll be going over that separately. But we do have ham radio systems, we have handheld radios, emergency phone numbers, we have WhatsApp. There are plenty of ways to get a hold of us. And then there are obviously sector captains, and then getting a hold of myself up in the UCC. Secure the area of concern. If you have a runner down, just make sure they're not going to get trampled by other runners. And then initiate whatever reasonable care you can. So if CPR is needed, do hands-only CPR, get an AED to you, declare it on the radio so we know that you need help. Protect and shelter runners as needed, and then clear the area if there are safety concerns. So again, bring in the help you need. We have bike medics, we have volunteers, we have HPD, we have ambulances. We have everything that you need, but you have to let us know so we can get you the assets that you need. And then stay with the situation until you can safely hand it off. This is something that's really important, is the hands-only CPR training. We have that QR code if you haven't had CPR in a while. So during a cardiac arrest, every second counts. And we know that every minute CPR is delayed, their chance of survival decreases by 10%. So the faster you get your hands on their chest, the better outcome potentially they can have. Our EMS providers for the race are actually two different agencies. One, we have Houston Fire. They're going to be providing the medical care with bike teams and ambulances at the start line and at the finish line. Out on the course, our EMS provider doing the transports will be Acadian Ambulance, and you'll see them floating around the entire course. We can have up to 20 of them on the course, but on average we have about 18 that are available, as well as multiple Gator teams that can pick up patients in areas where it's difficult for the ambulance to get to. One of the things I do want to point out is, if you're volunteering at an aid station or you're volunteering in the GRB and your shift is done, please do not go to the finish line to help. That is a very specific team trained very differently by Dr. Ifedi, and he has them laid out appropriately throughout the area. So please don't do that. If you're at a aid station and you'd like to volunteer further, one of the options you do have is heading down to the GRB. Find one of the leaders down there and ask them if there's an area where they need help, and then they can hopefully plug you in there. In regards to the weather, at this point it's still too early to say what weather we can expect on race day. The important thing to know is, as we know and the research demonstrates, as it gets warmer, we get more patients, more cases of exertional hyperthermia, we get more cases of heat cramps, more cases of hyponatremia. So just keep this in mind as we get close to the race date. And then on race day, you will obviously get briefed on what the weather is and what to expect medically from it. What you're looking at here is actually our flag system. And what we're going to do is we will notify you on the morning of the race that you're going to be placing one of the flags out on a cone, and just so the runners know what that means. And obviously all the flags have different designations. Obviously, this is really important so runners can keep track of what's going on the course. So to start, a white flag represents very cold conditions. A green flag basically represents optimal conditions to run as you plan to. Yellow flag, that connotates there's a heat risk, so that may not be the year you want to do a PR. So you have to be a little cautious about that. And then there's the red flag, which is high risk for heat. And that's usually where we really caution runners and advise them to slow down. If the black flag comes out, that means the event is canceled, and you'll be advised of that from the UCC by radio. So we do have weather mitigation options depending on the weather of the race. These decisions usually are made within a couple days of race when we have the weather locked down and we know what's going to be. If we are having a potentially cold race, we will have several Metro buses on the course to serve as heating stations, as well as a heating tent inside the GRB. If we're going to be having a warm race, we will have multiple Metro buses on the course to serve as cooling stations, as well as we place misting fans throughout the last stretch of the marathon and half marathon. If a disaster were to occur during the marathon, we do have a plan for the GRB as well as the course. As for the GRB plan, mainly it's going to focus around sheltering in place if it's safe to do so. This will change unless you're instructed by HPD or HFD to evacuate. And then obviously if we have a mass casualty incident near the finish line, we do have the option of expanding our treatment area if need be, and those instructions will be given by the staff there. So there are GRB rally points in case of evacuation because we want to make sure everybody's safe. The primary would be the first floor parking garage directly south of the GRB, and this is at the Avenida South parking garage at bottom of the escalator. And then the secondary would be a small parking lot east side of the Rustic Restaurant, southwest corner of Polk at Hamilton. This allows for us to have some accountability for our volunteers and make sure our staff members are also safe and hopefully get us out of harm's way. When it comes to the course plan, again, we'd utilize the flag system to alert the runners. So we do have a yellow flag, which is a caution flag for disaster, which more information is coming just to alert our runners, but we also obviously have the black flag if we're going to stop the race. All the medical aid stations will have evacuation points, and that's actually on that QR code on your ID. I would look at all of those before race day so you know where those are, our sheltering locations as well. But again, they have evacuation points to bring the runners to where they will be picked up in extreme circumstances. This is obviously a worst case scenario, but we do have a plan in place to have all runners picked up and brought back to the GRB or somewhere safe if something were to occur. We also have the ability to reroute runners if need be on the course. And if the race is coming to a stop, runners are asked to return the GRB and we tell them to stay on the course. All of our aid stations have yellow caution tape as well as bullhorns to make these announcements to the runners. And then obviously at the UCC, I'll be providing more information to our aid stations about what is going on and what you need to do to keep our runners safe as well as yourselves. This is essentially our incident overview, and we have different levels obviously to represent what's going on the course. A level 1 obviously has no direct impact to participants or spectators. These are little things that occur all the time that we just manage on our own without anybody really needing to be aware of because there's no safety issues. A level 2 is actually a race disruption. At this point the race is stopped. The course remains the same and the participants continue after the disruption, but they may be directed to the closest shelters in this situation. And the best way to think of this is if lightning were to come across the course. Level 3 is a course disruption where the threat is contained, the race becomes an unofficial run, and participants are rerouted either back to the original course or an expedited path back to the GRB, and HPD and the UCC will provide that information as needed. And then a level 4, our worst case scenario, is an event evacuation. The threat is active, the event is canceled, and the course is evacuated. When it comes to orientation, most of you will be in contact with your captains and they'll determine when you're going to be undergoing your orientation. A lot of you will be undergoing on the morning of the race as there is some time in the GRB to do so. As for our aid stations, we will contact you and advise you where to be on Friday before race weekend so we can get you all trained on the equipment as well as hand out equipment to the aid station captains. If you have any questions about day of the race, a lot of that information is going to be emailed to you as where to park, what time to be there, what do you need. But again, if there are further questions, please email your captains. They're amazing at what they do and they can really help guide you in what you need. Again, I can't thank everybody enough for your time and willingness to volunteer for the marathon. And I really mean this. If it wasn't for you all, we would not be able to have this race. So thank you, thank you, thank you.